Hi, in this course you are going to learn and master how to disassemble, repair, clean and assemble any mobile phone in general. I'm going to teach you exactly how to repair any phone that suffers from liquid damage. I'm going to go along with you step by step from A to Z, from disassembling the phone, removing motherboards, battery and connectors. I'm going to show you how to fix the issue using adequate tools and techniques, how to testing it, clean it, assembling it, testing it again, etc. To see the truth, this course will make you a pro in terms of mobile phone maintenance. So what are you waiting for? Enroll now and let's get started. So now let's assemble this phone and see the result. So we will begin and install the last thing that we remove. So the last thing that we remove is the main board. So let's install it right now. We're gonna begin with the switches connector, as you can see, or the power switch, volume up and volume down knob, as you can see. As I told you before, always be soft when you deal with smartphones or phones in general. So now the connector is done, is connected. Okay. Do you see the SIM card slot? So that's why the first thing to remove is the SIM card. If you don't remove it, you can break the SIM card and the SIM card holder. So the mainboard now is inserted correctly. So as you can see, this piece basically helps us to gather the screws. I advise you to have this kind of piece in order to make things easier. So now let's put the screws back. Okay. Now let's insert the camera, the rear camera, as you can see. So the rear camera is inserted successfully, and also we connect its connector. Then we will install the front camera, as you can see. Always try to do not touch the camera lens. So the front camera is installed and also its connector is connected. So now let's install the mainboard cover, as you can see. Okay, this is a plastic cover. As you can see, we have these holes should be aligned with the mainboard holes, as you can see. Okay, we have basically 3 holes. Okay, as I told you before, be soft when you install all phone components. So we have here 3 holes. So let's put 3 screws back in order to secure the mainboard cover. Okay, basically it's not just a cover, but it contains some ground pin and pins connection. So now we secure the mainboard, as you can see. The cameras are installed, the mainboard cover are installed, all screws are installed right now. Now let's put the battery in order to test the phone before installing other parts. So let's insert the battery. So this knob basically should be over the battery. So the battery is inserted right now. And let's put back these connectors. Then we're gonna install the daughter boards, okay, in order to connect other connectors. So here we have the power jack, as you can see. So we should put these 3 screws in order to secure the daughter board connector to the phone. So now, as you can see, we connect the connector or the nap that connects between the 2 motherboards, the main board and the daughter board. And of course, you should always follow the instructions above this nap. As you can see, the arrow goes directly to the main board. We have M here, okay? Do not swap this nap. If you swap it, the phone will not open, or even you can make a short circuit. But usually the connectors or the jacks are not the same. So all parts are connected. Now we can power on the phone and see what happened. So let's see. Now we can power on the phone and see what happened. Here we go. As you can see, it's okay. So as you can see, nice. So the work nicely done. Let's wait a little bit in order to confirm whether the phone will pass the post self-test. As you can see, good. Now the phone is repaired. Okay, this is nice. So guys, basically this is the steps. If you focus these steps, you can fix any phone that suffer from this kind of damage, a liquid damage. Okay, so this course is for any phone liquid damage. Just follow these steps, and of course all kind of phones, okay, not just the Huawei or Samsung, etc. They have the same working principle when you want to disassemble it or assemble it. Okay, always you will find the battery, the daughter board, the main board, but in some phones you can find just one board, one main board that gather all components, and of course you will find some connectors, cameras, etc. Okay, so as you can see, this is Huawei Y6 Prime that we gonna study in this course. So basically this phone suffer from the liquid damage. So I'm going to show you in this course step by step how you can repair any phone, not only this kind of phone, Huawei Y6 Prime, but any other smartphone that suffer from liquid damage, because always the working principle is the same for all smartphones. So let's get started. So first of all, I'm going to show you the process and the steps that you should follow to open any smartphone. Okay, so we're gonna use first this tool in order to remove the SIM card. The first, remember always the first step when you want to disassemble any phone, you should remove first the SIM card, otherwise you will break it. Okay, as you can see. Now the SIM card is removed. Now we can go forward. So remember, you should remove the SIM card first and the SIM card holder. Okay, so to disassemble any phone, you should use any plastic, as you can see. Okay, as you can see here, basically we have two edges. This edge, okay, the back edge where we have the battery. Okay, we should remove it first, and we have the second edge where we have the screen. Okay, so as you can see, we have this edge. We should remove this first, okay, in order to access to the battery, and then we will remove the screen. Okay, so basically this phone is suffered from a liquid damage and it's not working. So let's use this piece of plastic. Of course, there is some special tools that you can use to disassemble this kind of smartphones, but for me I can use any adequate plastic. As you can see, a thin plastic. As you can see now, we insert this plastic in the edge, okay, and then we should move it down or up, as you can see, okay, in order to open the battery door. Okay, so with smartphones you should always be soft. Do not use the power and do not hurry up, just step by step. As you can see, we remove now the battery door. As you can see, you see, we use just this piece of plastic. Never use, as I told you before, never use metal tools or screwdrivers and so on. Okay, so let's open the battery door. As you can see, just step by step. As you can see, here we have the glow. As you can see, okay, do you see the glow? So of course you can use the hot air, but because we have the battery in this part, it's not recommended to use a hot air with increased temperature. Okay, you can use it, but just a little bit of hot air. So as you can see now, we disassemble, we remove, we are almost done. So almost done, as you can see. So here we go. Now the door is removed successfully. As you can see, here we have the battery, as you can see, and this is the, okay, so we use just this piece of plastic. So now we are in, we have the battery here, and over here we have the battery door. This nape, as you can see here, basically is for the printing digital. So do you see the glue here over here? This glue, basically you can use the hot air to make things easier, but for me I prefer just to use that plastic to remove this door, because we have the battery inside. Because the battery is, you should never play with hot air with the battery. So let's remove these screws, as you can see here, in order to access the connectors that are connected to the motherboard. So basically, I will use this piece in order to gather the screws. So I usually use this one for when I disassemble the phones, the smartphones, as you can see. So let's unscrew the second screw right now. So as you can see here, we have another screw over here, the third one, but the third one is hidden. Okay, basically we should remove this part first. Okay, so without removing this part you cannot see this screw over here. So the same for this part also, as you can see, even if we remove these 5 screws, but we have other screws, other hidden screws, so we should disassemble this part first in order to get to this part and to this part. Okay, so but because we have the problem of liquid damage, because basically this phone suffer from a lot of liquid damage, as you can see, I will remove first this connector for the battery, okay, in order to avoid any short circuit while disassembling the motherboard. Okay, so now we remove these connectors successfully. So right now we're gonna remove these parts, okay, in order to access to the motherboard and other parts. Okay, so let's use always this plastic, any plastic, as I told you before. So as you can see, just try to go up or down as you can see. We open, so this is easy. As you can see here, basically we don't have any glue here, so this is the method that you can use to open any smartphone you have, not only this kind of smartphone, Huawei or Samsung, any kind of smartphone, because as I told you before, always the design and the working principle is always the same. Okay, there is always a common steps that you can follow. So we are almost there. So as you can see, so using this piece of plastic, you will not damage anything in the phone. As you can see, nothing, you cannot damage anything in the phone, as you can see. Now, as you can see, we remove this rectangular part. Okay, so do you see the screw that is hidden? Now we can remove it easily. Okay, So now we can remove this piece of metal without any problem. So basically this piece of metal is used to secure these connectors to the motherboard. Here now we have the battery. We should basically remove the battery, but let's remove this part first. Here basically we have the part where we have the charge IC, but sometimes the charge IC belong to the main motherboard. So let's remove this part. As you can see now the screws appears when we remove. Okay, basically we have here 3 more screws. So as you can see, we remove this part where we have the speaker, okay, and the mic. As you can see, do you see the liquid? Okay, here we have the liquid. Do you see? So when you have a phone that suffers from liquid, you should always disassemble it. Okay, you should disassemble it. Don't use the hot air or something like that directly. No, disassemble it first. So as you can see here, this connector or this knob basically connect between the 2 motherboards. So you cannot use it in both directional. No. As you can see, this arrow here means the direction of the main motherboard. Here we have the daughter motherboard and the main motherboard. Okay, so main motherboard and daughter motherboard. M means main motherboard. Okay, and over here we have daughter motherboard where we have the charge circuit. But for this kind of phone, the charge circuit is in the main motherboard and is connected to the charge port by this connector or knob. You cannot install it like this, as you can see. No, this arrow should be in the direction of the main motherboard. So remember, if you change the direction of this knob, the data will not be transferred correctly, or even you can get a short circuit. Okay, so now we have the battery. The battery is free. Now we should remove the battery. Okay, so to remove the battery, basically you can use always this magic piece. Do not use a screwdriver or a metal tools in order to avoid scratching or damaging the battery. As you can see here, for this kind of smartphone, to remove the battery, here as you can see we have a notice. You can use this part, as you can see, to remove it. Okay, of course you can use this any plastic you have like this, but for this kind of smartphone, okay, we have this part that we can use to remove the battery. As you can see, just pull it a little bit. Okay, as you can see, just pull it little by little until disengage it, because there is a glue between the battery and the phone. Just little by little, as you can see. And never use the hot air. Okay, remember, do not use the hot air over the battery, because the hot air can damage the battery. We use basically the hot air to remove the screen. Okay, but to remove the battery, just try to use a little power. Now the battery, as you can see, is free, as you can see. Just remember, do not use the hot air to remove the battery. So as you can see here, we have the liquid here in the battery, as you can see. Do you see the liquid? But we hope so that this phone will be repaired using just by following just these steps, okay? But because we remove right now the battery, so the phone is safe, okay? We are safe now. There is no power connected to the motherboard right now. So we're gonna remove or disassemble this daughter board, as you can see, where we have the power jack, okay? So let's remove this connector first. So as I told you before, always when you deal with smartphones, you should always be soft, okay? Do not disassemble phones quickly and with power. No, be always soft and step by step. So to remove the daughter board, so we're gonna use this piece of plastic to remove the daughter board. As you can see, here we go. Now the daughter board is removed. So if you focus, we see just the power jack. As you can see, we don't have here the charge IC, okay? So we have just the power jack, okay? And some components, AC components like ceramic capacitors and resistors, okay, as you can see. So this daughter board seems to be good, no damage on it. Now let's continue and disassemble the motherboard or the main board, where we have the processor, the charge circuit, the Wi-Fi controllers, etc. Now let's continue and disassemble the motherboard or the main board, where we have the processor, the charge circuit, the Wi-Fi controllers, etc. Always we're gonna use this piece of plastic. We still have one connector here, as you can see, for switches. So let's remove these screws, as you can see, in order to free the main board. So pay attention, as you can see here. Do you see this white color here? Here basically we have a clear screws, as you can see. We remove it, and here we have a hidden screw under this small piece of paper, okay? That's why you cannot open this cover without removing that hidden screw, okay? So let's remove this paper, this security cover, okay? As you can see, we have the screw. So always pay attention to this kind of screws. So if you don't pay attention, you can damage the main board or the main board cover. As you can see here, we have this arrow. This arrow means we have a screw over here. So always pay attention to arrows in the main board. Arrows always shows something that is hidden in the main board. Now we can remove this cover because we remove all screws in the main board. So here we still have another screw that we should remove. Now, as you can see, we remove this cover easily. So the motherboard now is clear. So we can remove the front camera. As you can see, this is the front camera, as you can see. Okay, so we remove now the front camera. And over here we have the rear camera, as you can see. So let's remove the rear camera connector, as you can see. So the connectors for these two cameras are not the same, it's different in terms of the number of pins and the shape, so that you cannot confuse with these cameras. So for the main board also, it have other screws that we should unscrew. So remember, each part in the phone or smartphone has its particular screws. Okay, when you want to remove any parts, especially boards, the daughter board, the motherboard, the covers, you should always remove its particular screws. Okay, so for this motherboard, as you can see here, let's remove the screws. So let's check whether we have another screw or not. So as I told you before, never use a metal or a screwdriver or a knife to remove the phone parts, the motherboard or the battery, etc. You can use a plastic piece or just try using your hand. Of course, for me, I forget to tell you that I wear a USB shoes, okay, in order to discharge, because if you want to deal with motherboards, including laptop motherboard or phone motherboard, you should always use the USB strap or any other USB tool. So now we have the motherboard here, as you can see. This is a nice motherboard. In this motherboard, basically we have all ICs, okay, including charge IC, the Wi-Fi IC, the processor, the RAM chip, the ROM chip, etc. So I see that this motherboard is wet. Do you see the liquid? Here we have the liquid everywhere in this motherboard. So this basically, so this phone is suffer from a bad liquid damage, but I hope that we will solve the problem. Just follow with me. Okay, let's try to apply the hot air to all parts of this main board, as you can see, including connectors, including edges, etc. So let's move on to screen holder. As you can see here, always when you want to apply the hot air, you should apply it by moving the hot air in a circular movement. Okay, don't put the heat air, don't focus just in one place in the main board or in the phone, because if you do so, you can damage or burn that place. That's why you should always move the hot air in a circular movement. So here basically we have the main board now, the main board that contains the power jack and some SMD component like ceramic capacitors and some resistors, and of course some connectors. Okay, so in some smartphone or phones in general, you can find that the charge IC integrated with the daughter board. But for this kind of smartphone here, the Huawei Y6, the charge circuit is not in the daughter board. It's integrated with the main board. It's installed in the main board. So now, as you can see, we remove the water. It seems that this board is okay right now. Let's see other things. So this cover also. Okay, this is basically the battery cover and cameras cover. This is basically the battery and boards cover. It's okay with that. Here we have the daughter board cover, where we have the speaker and the mic. And then here we have the main board cover, as you can see. Okay, so here we have the main board cover, as you can see. So let's apply the hot air also to this snap that connect between the two boards, the main board and the daughter board. So as I told you before, this kind you should always pay attention when you want to connect this kind of snaps. You cannot connect the snap randomly. No. It's not interchangeable. So basically this is the last part that we gonna fix using the hot air. Nice. So all components or phone parts are now okay. So now we're gonna proceed and assemble the smartphone, and we're gonna see the result. Okay, so this is how you can remove easily the liquid in a damaged smartphone. Okay, easy. Of course, there are some technicians that apply also the alcohol. Okay, yes, but you can apply the alcohol to mainboard, to boards. Of course, it can also help to remove the liquid, but the hot air is the main important solution for this kind of damages. Okay, so the hot air is enough. If you use a hot air to remove the liquid in a correct way, the phone will work properly. So now let's assemble this phone. and see the result. So we will begin and install the last thing that we remove. So the last thing that we remove is the main board. So let's install it right now. We're gonna begin with the switches connector, as you can see, or to power switch, volume up and volume down knob, as you can see. So as I told you before, always be soft when you deal with smartphones or phones in general. So now the connector is done, is connected. Okay, do you see the SIM card slot? So that's why the first thing to remove is the SIM card. If you don't remove it, you can break the SIM card and the SIM card holder. So the main board now is inserted correctly. So as you can see, this piece basically helps us to gather the screws. I advise you to have this kind of piece in order to make things easier. So now let's put the screws back. Okay. Now let's insert the camera, the rear camera, as you can see. So the rear camera is inserted successfully, and also we connect its connector. Then we will install the front camera, as you can see. Always try to do not touch the camera lens. So the front camera is installed and also its connector is connected. So now let's install the main board cover, as you can see. Okay. This is a plastic cover that contains some connector, some pins. As you can see, we have these holes should be aligned with the main board holes, as you can see. Okay, we have basically 3 holes. Okay, as I told you before, be soft when you install all phone components. So we have here 3 holes. So let's put 3 screws back in order to secure the main board cover. Okay, basically it's not just a cover, but it contains some ground pin and pins connection. So now we secure the main board, as you can see. The cameras are installed, the main board cover are installed, all screws are installed right now. Now let's put the battery in order to test the phone before installing other parts. So let's insert the battery. So this knob basically should be over the battery. So the battery is inserted right now. And let's put back these connectors. Then we're gonna install the daughter boards. Okay, in order to connect other connectors. So here we have the power jack, as you can see. So we should put these 3 screws in order to secure the daughterboard connector to the phone. So now, as you can see, we connect the connector or the nap that connects between the 2 motherboards, the main board and the daughterboard. And of course, you should always follow the instructions above this nap. As you can see, the arrow goes directly to the main board. We have M here, okay? Do not swap this nap. If you swap it, the phone will not open, or even you can make a short circuit. But usually the connectors or the jacks are not the same. So let's check now. All parts are connected. Now we can power on the phone. So all parts are connected. Now we can power on the phone and see what happened. So let's see. Now we can power on the phone and see what happened. Here we go. As you can see, it's okay. So as you can see, nice. So the work nicely done. Let's wait a little bit in order to confirm whether the phone will pass the post self-test. As you can see, good. Now the phone is repaired. Okay, this is nice. So guys, basically this is the steps. If you focus these steps, you can fix any phone that suffer from this kind of damage, a liquid damage. Okay, so this course is for any phone liquid damage. Just follow these steps. And of course, all kind of phones, okay, not just the Huawei or Samsung, etc. They has they have the same working principle when you want to disassemble it or assemble it. Okay, always you will find the battery, the daughterboard, the mainboard, but in some phones you can find just one board, one mainboard that gather all components, and of course you will find some connectors, cameras, etc. Okay, so now let's connect this arm. As you can see here, this metal piece, basically this piece secure the connectors. As you can see, the motherboard nap or connectors, and the battery connectors, the screen connectors, as you can see, etc. It has 3 screws, as you can see. So its purpose is connectors secure. Okay. Basically, this is the last part that we gonna install, and then finally we will install the cover, and that's it. As you can see, all parts now are installed correctly. Okay. So I forget to have this part also. Okay, this also should be connected. So this is the last part that we gonna connect to the phone. As you can see here, we have the switches. Always begin with this side where we have switches. Okay. So after connecting this part, we gonna install the cover, and that's it. You see? Always pay attention. Nice. So all parts now are connected successfully. The job is done. But before connecting the cover, let's clean a little bit the camera's lens. You can even use the water slick for the glasses, okay, or any cleaner that you have. So let's connect this connector. So before installing the cover, we should first connect this nap or connector. So this connector basically is for the fingerprint. Okay. As you can see, now the connector is connected. Sorry, I forget to connect it before installing this piece, as you can see. But you should always find a solution. So let's close the phone and that's it.